the poetry and the short stories and those things. I kind of call that the alter ego. That's J. Michael. That's right. No, that's not Mike.
Oh well, let me introduce you correctly. I'm sorry. Give it up for J. Michael. Welcome to Revelations, the place where we speak truth to power. I'm Cole Johnson, and I'm so glad you're able to join us. Well, my next guest, how can I put it? He's like Lil Wayne. He's that real G that moves in silence, like lasagna. His sports knowledge is rich, his pen is plentiful, and his heart is golden. Ladies and gentlemen, Nashville Voice columnist, pro players, insiders reporter, the owner of the Sports Awakening, and the host of Touring the AFC South, my buddy, my friend, Mike Patton. And this is his revelation. How you doing, Mike? How's everything?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. You talked about a few things that I've done over time, and I'm like, wow, man, I'm thinking back on those things, man, and their effects on my life. I guess put myself out there a little bit more than what probably I usually do.
Yeah. Well, I think you might put yourself out just a wee bit further here. So what we're going to do is, for those who don't know this wonderful gentleman here, I think it's time for us to open the way. Now, open the way is when conversation starts because vulnerability enters the room. And so I have to ask this question to you. Out of all the things that I could ask you, this is one that is highest among it all. You are what is called a unicorn. And what do I mean by that? Well, I moved to Nashville a few years ago, so I'm a transplant. You, though, you have been born and reared here. So how was your experience growing up in Nashville?
Honestly, I enjoyed it. I started out, of course, my parents both moved from North Nashville out here to Antioch when I was, before I was born. And then, of course, when I was born, we moved to the house I grew up in. And, from there, just being involved in sports, man, in the city. I still can remember when the Titans first got here to Nashville and the excitement. I was a senior in high school. And before that, we had the Predators, I believe, and just basically before then, Mm-hmm. So the excitement was here, and just watching the city grow and evolve has been interesting. Sometimes frustrating, but definitely been interesting to watch and see happen.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've actually had the joy of just knowing you, just looking at Nashville from your eyes, it's interesting because you get a different viewpoint of a certain city when you talk to somebody who has had his roots or her roots there. And just to have you look at the city the way that you do, it's totally different than how I do. It's an education and a half, really. So, okay, you see me as a transplant. So as a native Nashvillian, how does it feel to live in a city full of them?
Honestly, there's more people actually from Nashville that live here than what people want to give it credits for. But
I agree.
to see all the different transplants, I mean, hey, it is what it is. Welcome to the city, but you know, it seems like sometimes the city kind of caters a little bit more to people that are moving here as opposed to the people that are actually here in general and been here. So that's kind of a little bit more of the kind of frustrating issue. But other than that, I mean, hey, it is what it is. And welcome to the city, and hope you can contribute to making the city a better place.
Yeah, yeah. I felt that energy, and hopefully I have done that in the years I've been here. All right, so Nashville gets hyped up for many things. One of them is music, obviously, uh, but there's other things that the city is known for that seemingly many outside of the area do not know. Like it is an education hub, it is a medical hub. So I'm thinking, considering that your family is here and you seem to have a knowledge in so many different things, that education was stressed upon you. So how important was that with your family?
As far as education, it was definitely stressed in terms of education. Just kind of a transparent moment. I was the first in my family to graduate from 4-year college, so it was definitely stressed to education. However, it also was stressed to use the vehicle of sports to get you to college
Right.
and then kind of help you succeed from there. So that was one big thing my dad actually stressed with me growing up, and probably one of the reasons, not one, well, one of the reasons I should say that I continued to play sports as long as I did
Mhm.
growing up.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll definitely talk about your sports prowess, both on the field and with the pen, definitely a little later, because I always found that interesting about you too, and I never really got into all of that. So, what kind of things drew you as a child? What type of interest did you have when you were growing up?
Honestly, I had a lot of interest in just sports. I
Mhm.
really loved watching sports, loved talking sports. I mean, WGN is probably the reason that I have
Mhm.
any well, two of the three teams that I love watching in
Mhm.
terms of teams that I follow, in terms of the Cubs and the Chicago Bulls, was because of WGN. So,
Uh,
and actually, I learned how to watch Wimbledon and learned how to understand tennis actually because of summers sitting at home with
right.
Wimbledon being the only thing on TV during the summer. So, sports has been a big key to my life. A lot, as well as family, because I can always remember a lot of family gatherings with whether it be Fourth of July when I was a kid, how everybody coming to my house. Um, let's see, well, not my house, of course, my parents' house, but of course, Thanksgiving with all the going to people's houses, going to my cousin, my aunt's house, and I just remember all of those gatherings of different places where you went on different holidays and just family. So those things are, I would say, those are the biggest things I could say that kind of influenced me growing up is family and sports on the just those two things definitely.
All right, you are a native Nashvillian. Now, I've been here for years, and say that I'm just moving in as a transplant. So, if you were to pass along to me one place that I need to visit that it's not really popularized, and you say that's the place you need to go, what place would that be?
Wow. Let's see. Um, I would say Buchanan Street. I'll tell you why. And that's
Okay.
North Nashville, 37208. I know plenty of people will say, why do I need to go to Buchanan Street? And of course, nationwide, people will say, okay, that's a dangerous place to go because,
Right.
the stigma of 37208 and one of being one of the most incarcerated zip codes in America, apparently. But I don't think of it that way. I
Right.
think of it as you've got Slim and Huskies there, which is basically a pizza place that's owned by three black men that actually went to Tennessee State or that are from Nashville. Across the street, you have Willie B's. And then you got a little bit down the way, you've got Minerva, which is kind of a speakeasy. All three are black-owned businesses. You have Trenches there that's kind of with, different color tricked out shoes, clothing, things like that. That's owned by Titans cornerback Christian Fulton. I think it is brother, I believe. And you just have a lot of history on that street. You go down further, you got the fish place down the street. I mean, you've got a vegetarian restaurant there that's black owned. It's just, to me, it kind of embodies the spirit of Black Nashville to me. So that's where I would say would be the first place I would direct somebody to go.
More with Mike Patton right after this.
You have to learn to live with yourself before you can make a commitment of yourself to someone else.
When you go to something that's already structured, like the church, I don't need to go in there thinking I'm the pastor. It's like already one set up, you know what I'm saying?
It just had everything, but I learned, you know what I'm saying? Everything I did, I learned from.
So we look forward to seeing you same time, same place. Know that we love you, God loves you more. Continue to stay safe, do the right thing, stay out of trouble.
Conversation that informs a community. Brothers of Legacy. Every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. If you're looking for a sports program that gives you the flavor. Washington Commanders? Really?
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
That pulls no punches. Thuggish act by a thuggish actor. That gives you some humor. Praise everything LeBron does and never criticize it. If you want a show that gives you good times, then this is that show. BS3 Network proudly presents. I am Cole Johnson and welcome to Cole Sports with a Z. Every Friday on Patreon and every Saturday on YouTube, Spreaker, and all other outlets. Writer and entrepreneur. I love saying that about you. Mike Patton joins us on Revelations, and he's officially opened the way for us, being the wonderful, hospitable guest he is. It's time to walk on something that Nashville knows a lot of. We're going to walk across the bridge to prosperity. Now, this is where we link childhood lessons to adult application. And you, sir, are a football fan. I know you're a sports fan in general, but you're a football fan in particular. We talked about the Titans in the last segment, so that's the nearest NFL team in our area. However, that is not the team you root for. So what is the team that you call the one where you, sports-wise, live and die on their success, and why did you get drawn to them?
Well, I'll kind of say ahead of time, I do support the Titans. I hope they do well, and I do root for them, of course, and they're not playing my favorite team.
Right.
With that being said, my favorite team actually is the 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers are my favorite team growing up. The reason why is because of one Jerry Rice. I wanted to be him when I was a kid. I wanted to catch passes like him, and and run away from defensive backs and things like that. Unfortunately, growing up, I figured out, hey, I can't catch the ball like that. I can't break away from people like that. And I actually was a running back as a kid. And as I got older, became more of a defensive player in terms of a defensive back and a safety. So kind of didn't work out the way I wanted, but, that's the team I went with. That's the team I identified with. And, I've literally been a fan since I was a kid. And now, no offense to the Titans. I love the Titans. Hope they do well. Root for them. Because when they do well, the city is also buzzing as well. But, I 49ers have been my team since I was a kid. And, I wasn't, going to leave just like that, just because the Titans got him.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it was Jerry Rice. All right. Of course, I knew it was the 49ers. I just did not know why. I was like, okay, what was the connection? Jerry Rice. And then I know, and you led me into my next question. Now, along with being a fan of the sport, you also played it. And you actually touched on the position you played. Because when I learned that you actually played the sport, I learned that you were a safety. So you also mentioned running back. So how long were you a running back and how long were you a safety?
Well, the running back days didn't last very long. The running back days were when I was a kid all the way till maybe middle school. Middle school, I was a running back. And then when I got to high school, of course, wide receiver, defensive back. And when I broke into actually the starting lineup in high school, that's when I kind of primarily became a defensive back and really never touched offense again.
Oh, man. So you just got thrown onto the defense. Okay. All right. Now I've heard you talk about that side of the ball, and how you could break certain things down, especially, of course, from the secondary positions. Did you like playing defense, or were you a frustrated offensive player playing defense?
I actually enjoyed just playing in general. Playing defense was fun with me. I mean, that's where I probably had one of my high school highlights. Was definitely playing defense when I was in Alaska, actually playing a game my junior year of high school. We actually flew to play the state champion up there, and I picked off a pass and ran it back 50 yards. So that was probably my best highlight in terms of an interception, ran back for a touchdown. But I just enjoyed playing defensive back. It didn't matter to me whether it was offense, defense, whatever. As long as I was out there to help the team win and then be able to contribute and have fun, it didn't matter where I wanted to be. I wasn't a frustrated offensive player playing defense. Not at all. Not in the least.
Talk to me about the juggernaut that is the Brentwood Academy.
Okay. Well, when I went there was it was definitely hard. Coming from where I came from, you're playing at Una Bears, which that's where I played growing up. A lot of different people came out of there, like a Jalen Ramsey,
Right.
a King Dunlap,
Right.
Quentin Patton, my cousin.
Right.
So a lot of different people have come out of there. So I ended up going to Brentwood Academy, and I started actually in 6th grade out there. 7th grade and 8th grade, I actually was playing, and then my 8th grade year, of course, started one of the running back positions. Then, of course, got to high school. In high school, I'm looking around. This team's the number 3 team in the nation, and finished the season number 3 team in the nation. And I'm practicing against these guys every day.
Right.
So you can't help but get better playing against that type of competition. Now, I could have went somewhere else. Now, for those that aren't aware, Brentwood Academy is a private school here in the Tennessee area. But basically, I could have went somewhere else. I could have went to public school, and I probably would have started from freshman to sophomore year on. But I went out there, and I was challenged a lot more. And with being challenged a lot more, it allowed me to grow and to learn, hey, you got to work for this. You got to definitely work for what you want out here, and nothing's going to be given to you. And, of course, eventually junior year, it happened. I got into the starting lineup and definitely did all that I could to stay in that starting lineup as well. It wasn't going to be I just stay there and nothing happens. No.
Right. Now, earlier you mentioned that your father stressed to you sports being the gateway to the education path to go to college. So you moved to Martin, Tennessee. Now, why is that significant?
That is the place where I grew up in terms of from a boy to a man, because I was 2.5, 3 hours away from my parents going to college, playing college football.
Mm-hmm.
So I will tell anyone that knows me that that UT Martin wasn't necessarily my first choice of where I wanted to go to school.
Okay.
I did want to go to Tennessee State University.
Yes.
Just, however, things didn't necessarily work out that way. I won't kind of get into that story, but it just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I did want to go there first. However, it worked out the way it was supposed to, with me going to UT Martin and just developing into who I was now, because I think I needed to go away from my family to develop into the next level of who I'm going to be.
Okay. All right. So you said that and I understand this lesson, that University of Tennessee Martin took you from a boy to a man. What things about you as a developing man did you learn while you were there?
Well, learned a lot of different things. Learned to not, the funniest thing I probably would say is I learned not to, ever dismiss the value of having a mom that actually washes clothes at your house. Because I definitely was doing that, and I didn't know what I was doing my freshman year. And I'm like, what do I do with this, and this? So I'm calling home. And of course, the laundry room is in the basement. So you have to go upstairs, talk on the phone, then go back downstairs, and then come back up, So I'm basically running up the stairs, up and down the stairs, trying to figure out how to wash my clothes. Then, of course, how to handle money, how to stretch money to figure out, hey, I'm going to eat this day, this day, this day, and this day. This was during the summertime, trying to figure those parts out for the most part, because you had the cafeteria during the year, but summertime, if you're going to summer school, you gotta figure out how you're gonna get money. One, secondly, you gotta figure out how you're going to stretch that money, and then of course, learning how to cook, learning some semblance of how to cook, I should say.
Right.
I'm not the greatest cook in the world, but learning some semblance of how to cook, directions, all those different things. I mean, some directions, of course, some stuff you knew growing up as a kid, but just it kind of took it to another level in terms of decision making and all those different things, and what you're going to stand for and what you're not going to stand for. All those things kind of started developing when I was in college.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. And now you mentioned, like I said earlier, you mentioned that your father wanted sports to be the education pathway. How long did you play as a safety at the University of Tennessee Martin?
Now, just to give you a little background, I actually was recruited and they brought me in as a cornerback. so
it wasn't a safety.
I
Okay.
ended up getting switched over to play safety when I played free safety some, strong safety some. So came in as a cornerback, played free safety, strong safety some, and the majority of my contributions, I would say, to the football team was more special teams than anything. But I definitely enjoyed it. But that pathway there, I can never forget, graduating up there. And I did play college football all my 4 years. So, by the way, but, definitely was a learning experience. A lot of tough times in terms of fighting through times where you thought you were tired, but you may not have been as tired as you thought you were. And you found ways to push more. And I still take some of those lessons from playing college football and thinking I'm going to pass out, give me an example. We had a thing called county fair. And I'm thinking, we're going to go see the county fair. In my mind, I had no idea what county fair was. No. County fair was about 8 drills you're going to do these drills and you're going around all these cones doing this until the coach decides to blow the whistle. You got to run to the next station.
That drill. Ooh,
that was rough. That was rough, but and of course, at times you thought, how am I going to make it? How am I going to do this? But those lessons on the field, I would say, propelled me into some of the other things that I've done, and kind of, at your darkest and deepest times, you can kind of pull on those kind of experiences.
Revelations with Mike Patton on the other side. Discouragement, sorrow, distance. Your arguments cause damage to your family. The hurt leads to divorce. You feel like there is nowhere else to turn. But there is hope for you. That's where we come into play. There is an overcomer that lives inside of you. One ready to take on the world as you leap for joy, living in victory. You'll grow to love yourself and others. There's life after divorce, and you can claim it today. Get Over Divorce, where your new story begins here every Thursday on YouTube and Spreaker. Alicia.
You can't hold somebody to that standard if you haven't voiced what you want and what you're needing from that.
Mika.
If you're not communicating expectations, you're waiting for your feelings to be hurt.
Nicole.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to take the time out to be alone and to get themselves together.
Ivan.
You got to be willing to work through stuff. And from the jump street, y'all done had problems. Maybe you don't need to be working through those.
BS3 Network proudly presents Queen 3 and King podcast. Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. Writer, and we haven't talked about the writer part yet. We are going to talk about that soon. Obviously, former football player and entrepreneur and talking head. Yeah, Mike Patton joins me on Revelations, and this is my brother. We're just having fun as brothers do. You have sufficiently opened the way. You walked across that bridge. Now it is time to dive behind the purpose. Now, in the Behind the Purpose, this is the reason why we function the way we do. So you have talked endlessly about your love of sports, football in particular. But I knew you as a prolific writer. I think that's the best word I can use. When did you know that you were going to be a writer?
Honestly, I never thought I'd ever be a writer. I actually hated writing growing up. Hated it, did not ever want to do it, almost flunked my senior year of high school because of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So I never thought ever I would be writing a sentence, let alone articles.
Oh my gosh. Sentences. That is hilarious, man. All right. So, when did you come to this, I guess, come to Jesus-ish moment that, yeah, I think I'm going to make a pretty good buck with this?
Honestly, that didn't happen until maybe a little later on in the journey, I would say. But, as far as starting writing, it happened, and I've told this story on other places as well, but didn't start until my wife actually. But my wife actually was my fiance at this point in time. We were driving back from Atlanta. And I can't remember exactly what I heard on the radio, but I heard something on the radio and I was like, I can do that. I can do that. I mean, anybody can do that. It just was so frustrating that whatever article or piece they were talking about, it was 92.9 the game I was listening to. We were driving back from Atlanta here to Nashville. And the next thing I hear is, well, why don't you do it? Of course, that's my wife telling me, well, my fiance at the point in time telling me that, hey, why don't you do it then? So it started out as basically a personal challenge. So that was the birth of me ever writing anything. You all can thank my wife.
And we will talk about that wonderful wife of yours later on in this particular segment. Because I figured that she had a huge hand in how your journey has progressed to where it is now. So we talked about your football journey. You actually said that you played prominently in high school. You played all 4 years at college. Were you ever considered a pro prospect?
No, I was not considered a pro prospect. I know I had teammates that definitely were being looked at, but as far as me, no, I was not considered a pro prospect. And I kind of understood that more as I continued to kind of go through my college years. I'm getting to my sophomore, junior year, and I'm understanding I'm probably not going to be a pro prospect, and I'm cool with that. And coming to grips with that is a big thing that you have to do. You can't necessarily be like, okay, cool, well, I'm gonna do this, and this. But when you kind of understand where you are and what you've done, and kind of that you've achieved the first mission that was set out for you, then you think it makes things a little bit easier to kind of maneuver along.
You mentioned, your wife, who was your fiance at the time, who gave you a wonderful, loving nudge to go into the world of writing. So how huge of a role has your wife and even your daughter later on in your journey played in the motivation to create and to write and to do what you're doing even now?
Honestly, I would say probably in the writing part, as I got started, it was kind of all me at that point. As I got kind of into it and motivated, and because the stories just kind of took over, and I'd be thinking of them like every day, and like, how can I get this out? And they be coming 2, 3, 4 stories a day, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to get this out? How am I going to do this? And scheduling it, all those type of things. Now with the scheduling it and kind of managing my time, I would say my wife has definitely shown me a few things there, definitely for sure. Because of course, if I don't manage my time well, it doesn't make the house go flow very well either. So, that's where I kind of, figured a few things out, and still, of course, to this day, still working to figure things out. As far as my daughter, to me, I wanted to show her that you could do things and you could grow, and you could, do the things you want to do. You put in hard work, you focus on what you need to focus on, that you can be what you want to be, or you can say that you've done all you can to do what you want to do. And, that's what I wanted to show her and be an example of. And also with the people that I bring on, I particularly do bring on a lot of Black women on my show.
Yeah.
And the particular reason I do that is because, one, I want to lift up Black women. And, because, Black women in sports, there's a lot of dope Black women out there that are doing great things. Great things.
Ooh, cold. Yes.
And I wanted to, celebrate them and put them out there and be like, hey, they're holding their own out here. They, I don't know why you're down and they're talking about they don't need to be talking sports, because they can talk it better than a lot of fellas out here. So
say that again. Yes.
So that's where I wanted to show her that, definitely give her examples as well of people. Like, she may not see it now or even understand what I'm doing or what I'm showing, but maybe when she's older, maybe she can see some of these things, see some of these videos, and then understand these different images or people that you could potentially be, or you could potentially look up to, or be, use as mentors or anything of that nature. So that's a lot of the motivation there as well.
Yeah, I figured it was that type of motivation, because how you move, it isn't this is what I feel like doing only. I sort of had that feeling that you had an eye toward, all right, I these are some things, these are some checks I want to put in the box, but I also want to show that, there's some other examples out there where the future, starting with your daughter, can see, well, yeah, if you choose to be this, you can be. Here's a wonderful example and a blueprint right here. Yeah, totally understand that. So did you entertain any other genre in writing besides sports?
Well, I still entertain it now, actually, to be honest. I actually do write some non-sports stories. I have written some for the Nashville Voice and for the Tennessee Tribune as well.
Mm-hmm.
On business owners or people that are creating their own ways as well. I've definitely done that. And also I do some creative writing as well. I have some short story series I've done. I've done probably about 5, 6 of them that I've done. Literally about maybe 10 pieces apart in terms of like 10 chapters on all of them. And that was something I would say that I started, and definitely do a little bit of poetry as well. So I can write a lot of different things, not just necessarily the sports, but the main thing that a lot of people know me for is sports, I will say. But I kind of call it, the poetry and the short stories and those things, I kind of call that the alter ego. That's J. Michael. That's right. No, that's not Mike.
Oh, well, let me introduce you correctly. I'm sorry. Give it up for J. Michael. Joke. What was your initial goal as a writer?
Honestly, my initial goal was, hey, I'm going to write and I'm going to get somewhere big and famous, and I'm going to be able to write for a living. That was my initial goal. Then, of course, I picked up podcasting and, those different things too. So I really, I'm following what God is laying out for me, to be honest. I have different goals and things that I want to make, like potentially doing this for a living would be an ultimate goal for me. But of course, doing what I do during the day and doing the writing is something that I definitely balance and want to, of course, keep going. Ultimate goal would be definitely to do this for a living. Yes. And be able to do different lanes for a living, I should say.
Right.
Not necessarily just be a sports writer or a sports podcaster or a producer or anything of that nature behind the scenes, but also be able to kind of get the creative writing out and, maybe flip a couple of these short stories into actual screenplays or something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Totally. I can see you doing that. Oh, man. Okay. So the biggest aspect that I know about you, I know you're a family guy. I know you have a lot of interest in a lot of different lanes and you love sports. That's definite. God is extremely important to you. So when did your walk with Christ begin and how has it progressed since then?
Well, I will say that my walk actually, like anybody, it's not going to be the straightest of paths. It's going to go all over the place. That's just part of it. Right. Of course, as a kid, that's literally, going to church every Sunday. Baptist church is where I grew up in. Spruce Street Baptist Church for those in Nashville. That's where I grew up. Of course, went there. My mom would make sure I was there every Sunday. Got into, of course, you have the Easter suit on Easter Sunday, those different things. But, growing up, that was, heavily pressed upon me that, hey, without him, not a lot of these things are possible.
Right.
Went to college, didn't really go to church a ton in college. So kind of lost a little bit of the going to church and understanding of why you need to go to church, or why, why I felt I needed to go to church, I should say, because of course everyone feels a different way about how their walk is. And I'm not judging anybody else's walk.
Exactly.
But, in college, I literally Sunday was sleep day, basically. So, I never really went to church, never really got involved. I did for a second, I'll say I did. But other than that, never really went to church very much. Came back home, took a little while to get back into it. Didn't really get back into it quite like I really probably should have. And then, of course, I meet my wife. Of course, we start going. She started inviting me to go to church, because I knew God was very important to her.
Right.
So she'd invite me to go to church. And one Sunday turned to 2 Sundays, turned to 3 Sundays, 4 Sundays, whatever. Of course, we get engaged, and I actually ended up joining the church that she was actually a member of. And, I kind of would say that he's grown more important in my life as I've known her, one, and then as I've known him, and then as I've grown as a man and a human being. He's definitely become more important and a little bit more of a center. And I've got a little bit more understanding that without him, not a lot of things are possible.
We'll be right back with more Mike Patton. This is Revelations. This is a BS3 Network presentation. If you're looking for serious panel discussions, then you've come to the right place. At least one episode out of every 3 months, we will bring different individuals and get a better understanding of the world around us. 90 minutes of scintillating conversations surrounding life-altering topics is on the menu. Join your host and moderator, Cole Johnson, as he sets the proper conversational table. It is the place where safe spaces come to learn and enjoy. Revelations, the panel. Discussions with a purpose.
Do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, WIZE.
Are you in a life holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. You want to watch these interviews commercial free? Well, now you can. Revelations is on Patreon. Become a patron today. Writer of so many different lanes, and entrepreneur, and as I said, talking head earlier, Mike Patton joins me here on Revelations. He has opened the way. He's walked across that bridge. He has given the reasons as to why he does what he does. Now, though, it is time to bring all of that to light. Now, all of us shine in a unique way, and that's why we say bring the light. And if I were to mention the letters NABJ or National Association of Black Journalists. What comes to mind?
Opportunities. One thing that I never really knew about NABJ when I started writing. No one ever really talked to me about it, but one particular man, he definitely mentioned it to me. And Gitan Ward, rest in peace, Gitan, definitely was a person that kept talking to me about it. He actually went to the same church I did.
Oh, wow.
When I joined the church that my wife went to. He would talk to me about it, and I would hear him, but I really wouldn't kind of take it super seriously. But eventually one day I was like, okay, cool. Well, I need to go to a meeting. So I went to a meeting, and it just opened my eyes to the different people that are in Nashville doing different things, the different Black media here. And to me, I was like, okay, at that point, I was like, okay, yeah, I need to join because I can learn some things and grow here, and then maybe be a part of helping someone else grow or helping someone else's journey as well. So that's, opportunity to grow within the business, but opportunity to grow as a human being and help someone else as well.
You talked about being a freelancer, and I actually got a chance to get to know you because of one of these freelance opportunities. And this freelance opportunity was the mutual tie that we have to the 3-Point Conversion family. So what opportunity did that vehicle present to you?
Well, it presented me to kind of open up the door to, do a little bit more Titans work, elevate my profile, and just to allow me to do a little bit more Titans work and elevate my profile as well as write with a friend. Because of course the 3-Point Conversion, those my guys. So so that kind of opened the door to being able to write with friends and family and being able to help out in that aspect.
And shout out to my man Mr. Controversy. I missed you. Okay, sorry. Now, another one of the friends, it's another mutual friend of ours. You have written with her. You've done coverage with her, especially in a most recent Super Bowl. And she has been a guest on your show, and so have I. So what made you want to literally tour the AFC South?
Honestly, looking at, I kind of looked around, and I live in Nashville, of course, and I see the Titans games. I looked around, and of course, I'm not getting a Titans game. I get a Colts game, a Jaguars game, or a Texas game. So I'm seeing all these teams anyway, and I'm here, and I'm like, okay, nobody's really tapped into this market. So why not create a show? Why not talk about the AFC South and bring the AFC South to people across the nation, as opposed to just trying to let them hear about it in media? Why not let me bring it? Why not let me talk about it? Why not let me be the voice for it and represent it in that way and talk about it and kind of give people the inside of that division, as opposed to the fluffy layer that some people may see.
Totally agree. Considering that I am a fan of one of those teams in the AFC South, I totally understand that. And you earlier talked about the purpose of why you have some of your guests. Karita Parks is one example. Tarika Foster Brasby is another. What have you discovered in finding these jewels with women who could probably talk any average guy under the table with the sports knowledge that they carry?
Well, I didn't discover anything necessarily that I didn't already know, that there are some brilliant Black women out here talking sports. I mean, you could throw Nashina Quick, Vashti Hurt, you could throw Renee Washington, Ashley Baker. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of very talented Black women that can talk sports, and not only talk sports, but talk people under the table talking sports. So
100.
you know, that didn't learn anything I didn't already know. I just was kind of bringing it to the world that, hey, these Black women are doing their thing, and you need to recognize them and respect them.
Yes, sir. 100. You being the wonderful gentleman you are, you like to shine light on others, but now looks like it's time for the light to be shown upon you. So you made an appearance on Brother from Another, Mike Holly and Michael Smith, and absolutely showed out, sir. I mean, I will say that to you, brother to brother. You showed out on that show, on that appearance. How was the experience? I'll go there.
I mean, it was honestly surreal to me, to be honest. I jumped in, you know, of course, you know, we were doing it, you know, via online. And, you know, before I go on, of course, I got in there a few minutes early just to make sure that I was in there and everything was set up good and good to go.
Right.
And they jump on the screen, both of them, Michael Holly and Michael Smith. And they, hey, how you doing? This. You know, hey, just be comfortable, be yourself. Remember, hey, you're the guy. I was like, wow, they really just tell me. I was like, huh? But so, you know, and from there, you know, they literally were like, hey, you know, let's, you know, basically talked about the AFC South and kind of gave me the floor, which, you know, I will say I did get one thing wrong with, you know, the Trayvon Walker and the Trayvon Walker thing. I did get wrong. I did think that they would go a different direction. However, the Jacksonville went with Trayvon Walker, and, you know, for what I hear about them, they made the right decision.
Yeah.
But, you know, other than that, I think I was pretty spot on with a couple different things. Maybe had the Houston picks flip-flopped, but I did definitely have them pick an offensive tackle and a defensive back or defensive impact player.
All right, so all of what you have done and all of what you're doing now, what is next for you?
Honestly, I would love to know that, but, you know, but as far as that, just continue to grow the podcast, which I'm on. I think episode 80 will be next week. 80 and 81 will be next week. Which, you know, for those that know me, I probably false started on a podcast. I don't know how many times. So for this one to make it to 80 episodes next week, that's an achievement itself. For me to make it to 10 episodes was great for me. So that in itself is, you know, something I want to continue to grow, continue to kind of evolve the podcast, continue to write and continue to grow that aspect, and maybe kind of go down a few different lanes. You know, of course, with producing a podcast now, you know, for those that I've said this on social media, when you produce your own podcast, I think you need to call yourself a producer as well. Don't get on there and call yourself just I host a podcast. No. You're shortchanging yourself. Throw in there that you're a podcast producer and podcast host as well. You host and produce your own podcast. Don't say you just got out there and you did a podcast. No. But yeah, maybe going into the producer aspects potentially and kind of growing that lane as well. I mean, we'll see what happens. You know, I definitely, you know, don't know what the future holds because, you know, if you say you've got a certain plan, you know, a certain God is going to laugh at you and show you the plan he has for you. So, you know, that's basically, I'm just kind of listen and take the lessons and continue to evolve and grow in the lane that he has provided me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And thank you, sir, for bringing yourself and your plans to light. As I've been taken to task, podcast producer and host, talking head and writer, prolific writer in many different genres, Mike Patton, joining me here on Revelations. And this is the time where we are plug Tunin. That's right. Just like De La Soul, similar thought process. And this is where I get to sit back and allow the guest to plug whatever, in this case, his heart desires. So whatever you want the people to know where they can find you, the floor is yours.
Well, first and foremost, you can find me on Twitter at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton 82. Of course, you can find me on doing the NABJ Sports History in Black. I do that Monday through Friday on the website there. And of course, it's if you look it up, it's Sports History in Black is the segment, and it's NABJ News and Views is the name of the site. As far as freelance work, you can catch me in the Tennessee Tribune, also the Nashville Voice. And as far as podcasting world, you can catch me producing and hosting touring the AFC South. Shows usually drop Thursday and Saturdays, and you never know what guest will pop up next. I'm going to tell you that the next guest I will probably have, a lot of people are going to know. So I'll just leave it at that. Not going to say too much about it. I'll probably let people know pretty soon, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, you can find me on all listening platforms as well: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, let's see, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. I'm missing one. No, I think I got all of them.
Well, I will be looking forward to that episode, because I know it's going to blow everybody's minds when you do it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the one, the only, the irrepressible, the incomparable Mr. Mike Patton. Thank you, sir, for joining us here. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate your knowledge.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a great opportunity to, I guess, talk sports and I guess talk about me a little bit, even though I probably don't do that a lot. But
well, it's always good, though. I appreciate it, man.
Success looks different and unique to every single person. It doesn't look the same to every individual. However, you immediately recognize it once someone achieves it. That's what I see in Mike. In private conversations, we've talked about how we'd make an impact in the content game. There's no question he's beginning to scratch the surface, and he's making waves in his own way. The Bible says, "A gift opens the way and ushers the giver into the presence of the great." Having the eyes of national media looking at your work means another level of success has come to Mike. His soft-spoken nature but his studious mindset is the combination sports journalism needs. Success is beginning to reach Mike's doorstep, and it honestly couldn't happen to a more deserving human being.
Many thanks to Mike Patton for giving us his perspective on life, which was sports and writing and many other things. And why don't you join us every Tuesday on YouTube, or even live with certain shows as well. This is where you will get a different perspective and a different person sitting in the guest chair each and every week. For changing the world one conversation at a time, I'm Cole Johnson, and this has been Revelations.
Thank you for tuning into Revelations. To download this episode, go to Acast and type Revelations. For apparel, go to Spring and type Revelations. Music by Lakey Inspired.